Welcome to the channel. My name is Samuel Barles, and here we talk about networking and cybersecurity. Of course, first things first, all opinions of the video are my own, do not necessarily reflect the opinions of my employers, past, present, or future, anyone else on the planet, or anyone in the universe, just in case there's intelligent life outside of planet. So I want to talk a little bit about FortiMail. I want to kind of give you an overview whether you have it today and you're looking to understand and maybe change some things that you're doing today, or maybe you're looking to evaluate FortiMail for your organization. Either way, I want to help you make an informed decision that's best for your organization. So we'll jump right into the FortiMail email flow and how FortiMail processes email. First thing is access control. And really the big thing here is going to be relay control. Right? So we have an implicit policy that's going to say if the domain is explicitly configured in FortiMail, we're going to pass the information, which means most enterprises are going to be okay with just the implicit policy. We're not going to relay random internet strangers' emails. Now, we can get more granular if we want to. Maybe if we have an MSP or ISP environment, we have lots and lots of domains behind our FortiMail. We have the options there. Typically, most enterprise environments, right, are not going to dig into that. So after it passes that, assuming, we're going to go to the IP policy, which the big thing here is going to be our session profile. So session profile, if we're looking for server reputation, if we're looking for things like SMTP header, maybe we're seeing lots of traffic, we want to block that. Overwhelming FortiMail from one particular server, we can do all that right here in IP policy under the session. Now we can have other things like antivirus, anti-spam, content, etc. Typically, if we have our exclusive flag, we can set these. But typically, we would do that after the session policy in our recipient policy. So when we're talking about IP policy, obviously we're filtering by IP. We're looking at the server we're receiving it from. Whereas recipient policy can be a lot more granular for an enterprise environment. Whereas the IP policy, again, if we're an MSP, if we're in front of a bunch of tenants, we may want kind of more generic stuff. And we could have that exclusive flag that will add antivirus, anti-spam, whatever. Here. Now we get to the recipient policy. Now, if we don't have this exclusive flag, we're going to implement all of our, content inspection, our antivirus. Well, DLP. So if we're looking to maybe encrypt some credit card information, social security numbers, etc., or deny it, we can do that there. If we're looking at antivirus, which we use FortiGuard information to do a scanning of is this known bad. Same signatures you get in FortiGate, right? We get all the same telemetry. We can leverage that plethora of information we have. Heuristics. So, right, we can use some heuristics in order to detect if something's malicious. Now, we can also go and send a file to NDR or Sandbox. Now, it's important to note that it's specifically for the NDR. I'm not sure if we have third-party Sandbox integration or not. Not sure. But I know it's just FortiNDR on the NDR side. So FortiNDR has a neural network so that we can very, very quickly, with very high accuracy, not as high as a full-featured Sandbox, but much quicker. That's the benefit there. Because we see in some environments with the Sandbox inline, it takes minutes to get to the end user. And if you have a situation like, say, at a car dealership where someone's sitting across and they're trying to make a sale and they have to send insurance information and all this other information via email, if that takes several minutes, that may encourage those end users to try to find an alternate method that is not protected by all of this, right? And then we run into that issue of, well, now we're relying on another layer of security, hopefully some endpoint security, instead of all the security we have built in here that we're able to leverage. So having that balance of convenience and security, of course, is always a struggle for organizations, but something to keep in mind, some Sandbox or NDR possibilities there. The other thing is anti-spam, and this is where a lot of the filtering that is modified within organizations is really going to be an anti-spam. Right? Antivirus, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to want to turn most of that, if not all of it, on. Utilize NDR or Sandbox if you can. Anti-spam, there's lots and lots of options in there. That's where I think the bulk of the configuration within FortiMail is going to be for most enterprises. So within the anti-spam profile, we can do things like DMARC, DKIM, SPF checking, right? And we can say, hey, if it fails, then we'll take an action. Well, before I get into what action, there's two different kinds of actions. There's a final action, stuff like, redirect. We want to send it to a different mailbox, right? We could drop it. We could deny it. There's another term for that. I don't remember off the top of my head. We could send a message saying, hey, we didn't deliver this. We also have quarantine, right? And that could be at the system level or at the user level. Now, depending on where it is, right? So antivirus, for example, you can't do a user quarantine. You have to do system quarantine. That's because we want to protect our users, right? We don't want them to accidentally click on a virus that we detected, right? So, okay, we have some final actions. We have some non-final actions as well. And really the one I want to focus on is the subject. So we can add something to the subject. For example, if it fails to DMARC, DKIM, SPF, whatever, then we can go ahead and add suspicious. And you can put whatever you want, right? But that's just kind of a good example. Okay, so that's good. We did a DMARC, DKIM, SPF check. It's suspicious. There's something going on. Maybe they're not a mature organization. Maybe it's legitimate, right? Maybe they just don't have these checks in place, which they should have, but not all organizations have even dedicated IT teams. Some, they may have an MSP, or they maybe just signed up for O365 and thought everything was great. So we may not have all these in place for a legitimate organization. Well, what are our options? Right, we could quarantine it, we could drop it, whatever, but we could just mark it suspicious. Okay. Maybe we also have some URL filtering. Okay, so we get a URL. We want to scan the URL, right? We're nervous. We don't want to just, let any URLs become, because it could be phishing sites, right? They could lead the user to go sign in, whatever. We have a few options, right? We can actually layer the URL filtering, for example. So we're saying, hey, if it's known phishing, known malicious, then we're going to take the action of quarantine. I'm going to put QTN just to abbreviate there. Quarantine. Okay, but if it's unknown, it's a new link, maybe URL filtering accidentally picked it up, it's in a URL format, but it's not a URL, then let's go ahead and mark the email as suspicious URL. But this is not a final action, right? It's going to continue the processing. So then we can go down to additional checks. Now, these are some examples, right? There's lots of other checks we could do. I'm not going to go into all of it, right? But now we can go into heuristics. So with the heuristic scan, it's going to leverage Perl-based regular expressions from FortiGuard. So we're going to get this automatic. It's going to automatically update. We're not going to manually set a bunch of things. We could leverage heuristics in order to say, hey, we're going to look at that information and see if it aligns with what we would see from spam, from known spam, right? So we're finding some metrics. We're looking for similar metrics, right? Patterns within the actual emails we're receiving. So we could say, hey, if you fail the heuristic scan, yeah, let's go ahead and user quarantine it. Maybe we want a system quarantine, whatever option we have, drop it, whatever option you want, right? Completely up to you. Me, in my environment, most of the time, I would rather user quarantine because they would be able to self-remediate. And but each organization has their own preference. So again, if we fail to demarc, we can add suspicious to the subject line. If it has a bad URL, suspicious URL, it's unknown. If we know it's malware, right, we can go ahead and quarantine it. Just make that easy. If we know it's phishing. But if it's unknown, maybe we can add that suspicious URL. And then we can, on top of that, add additional checks, right? Whatever other checks we want. But we could also, again, do any of these final actions here. We could say, hey, if DMARC or DKIM fails, just go ahead and put it in quarantine automatically. So I've been at some organizations where just about everything from the outside went into quarantine, user quarantine. So just keep that in mind. We have lots and lots of options, lots and lots of granularity within FortiMail. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been informative. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. Reach out, what have you. So I'm going to try to put videos somewhere that might be also helpful to you. Go over maybe some other solutions, maybe some other concepts that are in the networking and cybersecurity space that hopefully will be helpful to you guys. And if you have any content that you think would be valuable that I don't have, feel free to reach out, put a comment in the description below, or reach out personally and say, hey, I'd really love to see a video on this. I'd love to help you guys some more. So with that, have a great day.